think we have unfortunately created a real problem in our society where everyone can believe they're an alpha male. And it's like everyone can be like, actually used to be only one chief. Like there used to be actually only one alpha male, which is the definition of an alpha male. It's like there's one.
Yeah, there's one.
And so
alpha A, the beginning, right? The first.
And so, but you go on Instagram and you go on TikTok and you go on all these things and everyone's like, there's all these dudes that are like, I'm an alpha. It's like, seriously, it's like, pay me 30 grand. I need 5 men who are in their 30s that want to make 100 grand this year. It's like, freakazoid. Like there are, but it's like, we have normalized this mentality of like, anyone can get there and it can happen overnight and you don't need anyone else but yourself to do it. And you can be a made man. I'm very for it.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Because I heard you two talking about it before. I don't understand what this new art piece is.
Okay, the new art piece. Yeah, the new art piece.
We certainly can.
What this is.
Yeah, the new art piece is really nice. So,
wait, I get it. So, why does it say C61?
Exactly.
That's exactly the thing. It's because C61 doesn't exist. So, there was a snowstorm recently. For those of you who are listening way after we record this, just envision a lot of snow coming fast and you have a flight the next morning that you got to jump on. That was my situation. Okay. So I had to move my flight up. I moved my flight up to the nighttime so I could do as much work as I could before flying back to Ohio.
Yep.
In booking the last flight though, my flight about 5 hours before it was supposed to take off started delaying by about 15 minutes at a time. And it was about 30 minutes into being delayed. So 2 times it had jumped 15 minutes. And Sam texts me and goes, hey, Brad. Yeah, he's got me. And he's like, hey, your flight keeps bumping back. You might want to see if you can jump on this flight that me and a guy that we work with named Marty are on. And I go, for sure. I'm like really close to the airport. Dropped the rental car off, got on the rental car shuttle, got over to the airport. It was BWI, shout out Baltimore, one of my most traveled airports, I think. And I'm going in, and when I get up to the front, I go to the help desk with Southwest because I'm a Southwest lifer. And when I get up there, I don't remember the guy's name, which would make it way better. But I get up there, and this guy is like half watching a basketball game, half tending to the help desk. Okay, I get up there already jiving with the guy. I'm just like, hey, I already moved my flight up a little bit. I'm supposed to take off tonight, but I'm going to Columbus. And the original flight that a buddy of mine's on was supposed to take off in 20 minutes, but I know that it's delayed. On my phone, it won't let me choose that flight because I'm too close to the time. But since it's delayed, could you help me see if I could get on the earlier flight? And as he's looking, he's like, have you ever like been in a situation where they're like doing the thing you ask them to do and they're like, like all the faces of like no hope. And he's just like, okay, yeah, it looks like it's going to take off in about 45 minutes. All right, well, you're going to Columbus? And I was like, yeah. And he goes, so I think what I can do is I can just get you a boarding pass and we can see what happens. and I'm like,
what time is this flight?
So,
what time is this flight?
I mean, dude,
if you miss this flight, are you staying overnight in Baltimore?
No. I had my flight that was kept getting, you see what I'm saying?
The flight
on the back end.
To put this in perspective, I texted him a half hour before boarding and he's like, I'll try to make it as fast as I could. And he's at he's at like BWI's like rental car place this morning.
Yeah, which is like,
you were getting
1,000 miles away.
No, they were about to take off with it. Yeah.
Like, so he like gets within a half hour, rental car place, to the thing.
So I'm like running up sweating, and the guy, like when he first gets me, I tell him my flight information. He's like, you're rushing quite a bit for flying out in 5 hours, you know?
But that's a homie for doing
that. No, he
did.
He did. So he prints me off that boarding pass, which if
sure
you've ever flown Southwest, Southwest has A, 1 through 60, B, 1 through 60, and C, 1 through 60. And he hands it to me and goes,
C61.
You can see what happens. And I look at it and it's C61.
It looks like off-centered too. It doesn't, it's like something that's weird about it.
Yeah, he did it on like Microsoft Art or something. But I run through TSA and like they scan it. It works. I get up to the like gate and they're about to start boarding like A group. And so I'm like, maybe I push my luck, see if I can get up with Sam and Marty. And I go up to the like assistant desk next to the gate. And I look at them. I go, hey, so I was just wondering.
They're like, did you make this? Did you bring this?
I was just wondering if I could potentially like move up. Are there like any A spots for sale or things like that? And they look at my boarding pass and they go, I'd probably just stick with what you got.
When he said I've literally never seen this before in my life.
Yeah, the guy's like, that I've never seen.
You brought this from
like
home.
So he literally looks at me and he goes, you board after everyone else boards. And I was like, totally, I can do that.
The best part of this is that it was a completely full flight. and Marty got on in the A group before me. So I was B49. Marty gets on, he goes, I'll save us a row. I'm like, okay. So I actually tried to cut everybody. I got into like B20 and get up to the,
this is so
line.
funny.
And I'm like, they're scanning them so quick. They're like, beep, beep.
They'll get
beep.
you though.
No. And I went like this. And they're like, sir, you're B49. I'm like, ugh. And they like go to the back of the line, get back in the line.
They do not like when you do that.
No,
yeah.
So I get on. Marty
there.
got the exit row. I sit in one of the seats there, and we're like, I don't know if Brad's gonna make it. And sure enough, he got on. There's like 6 people behind him. We're like, how did he get
like I waited my turn, and I'm going to board, and like there are people running
just
behind
running
me.
late.
Yeah, and I'm just like, I'm gonna keep
running late on a
being
delayed
obedient.
flight.
And
Holy
I gave
crap.
it to him, and they scanned it. And when it worked, I like walked down the jet bridge, and when I come in, I see Sam and Marty, and Marty goes, the poor souls behind you probably have to like stand in the back of the plane. But yeah, so C61, that'll be forever enshrined in modern man lore.
That's legendary.
Isn't that legendary?
That's freaking hilarious.
I need to get that guy's name. So if you ever listen to this,
was it Daryl?
it might have been.
I think it was Daryl.
Now that you're saying it, if you're listening to this
it.
and your name's Daryl, or you work at BWI and you were half watching a basketball game when a weird sweaty dude ran up and asked you to change his ticket, and you Microsoft arted a C61, reach
You're
out
gonna
to
get
us.
fired.
You're famous.
No, reach out to us. I want to. He's a homie. We should have him on. Yeah, that's what that's about. Craziest. What's your craziest flight? You've missed a flight,
dude.
Well, you and I have run to the gate before.
That was in Sacramento
Yeah.
when we had to run to the gate. I'm going to try to say this so fast, and maybe we can break it down another day.
Yeah.
I've seen a situation where actually it was a Southwest employee, because they're usually so nice.
Yeah.
It was the guy at the desk checking people, whatever that's called. He's
like into the flight,
into
like
the flight.
your
Yeah.
boarding pass.
He was in a bad mood, like an insane mood, and he
They
was
have so
like,
much power for a bad mood.
I know.
Not
And
good.
this was at LaGuardia, and he literally was. This was this summer. He was checking people in, and like they switched a gate, so some people were coming up, and every time somebody would come up and be like, "Hey, is this the right gate?" He would just be like, "Check the board, don't talk to me. Check the board, don't talk to me. Check the board, don't talk to me."
Oh,
Then
dude.
people are coming through, they're like out of order, like in the wrong thing, and he's like, "Get to the back of the line, get to the back of the line," and he's just pissed the whole time. So then there's a guy trying to check in with his daughter, or no, with his fiance. That's what it was. They let her go on, and he's like, "Nope, you can't do it." And the guy like started kind of trying to talk to him, and he's like, "If you say another word to me, I'll kick you off the flight."
Oh my gosh.
It was insane. So then the guy like kind of like gets in his face and like yells at him a little bit, but then like he didn't kick him off the flight, whatever. He eventually
He didn't
gets
have
in.
the power to.
There's 2 ladies, a daughter and a mom, and the daughter's probably in her late 20s. The mom's in her probably late 50s, early 60s. She literally has like something to bring on for breathing or something like that, or medication. And he's like, "You can't take that on." And literally they tried to approach him and be like, "Look, I have to have this." And he's like, "You'll be kicked off the flight if you talk to me again." And he's just giving so much attitude. And then he keeps getting back on the intercom and saying whatever that person did wrong to everyone.
Oh my gosh.
Just putting people on blast.
That's
So then there's a
tough.
guy that this is the best part. This is freaking crazy. This guy is around me, and he literally just walks up. It's just a random guy. And he walks up, and I can tell he's like uneasy. He's like in normal clothes, some Jordans, whatever. And you can tell this guy's like uneasy. And I'm like, is this dude like crazy? Like, is he about to do something crazy and I'm about to witness whatever? Because he's like kind of talking to himself, but then like sat down. And then when one of the other situations happened, when that guy was getting in a fight, he like kind of stood up and then sat back down. I'm like, what's about to happen? So then the very last thing that happens is when that woman with the medication and her mom go to get on, because he made them go to the back of the line. When they go to get on, the dude, let's call him John, that's being a jerk, scans both of them in. And as the woman with the medication walks by, she says, "Your attitude is horrible and you need to fix it," and keeps walking. John, the dude that's been a punk the whole time, follows them down the bridgeway.
Oh my gosh.
Yelling at them, and then says like, "I'm walking you off this flight." So then the dude that's acting all weird in the Jordans, I'm like, something's about to happen. Because then he just goes, "Man, he can't be treating people like this," and stands up. And I'm like, what is about to happen? I'm sitting there just like, I don't know what's about to happen.
Whoa.
And so he waits for the guy. He waits for John to come back off the bridgeway. And John comes off the bridgeway and he goes, "Man, what's going on, man? I like what is happening right now? Like, dude, what's this behavior about?" And the dude's like, John looks around and goes, "Why is this guy talking to me?" That's what he says to the guy with the Jordans that was being uneasy that came up to talk to him. Now the dude with the Jordans leans in and he goes, So I didn't want to have to do this, but I'm actually a manager with this airline. And he's like, your behavior, he's like, I could report you right now. Your behavior, I could get you fired right now. I'm a manager with this airline and I could literally get you fired. And he's like, I'm not going to report you, but I need you to shape your attitude up. And I need you to talk to me as to why your attitude's like this. And it was like a freaking TV show, dude. Because it was like literally the one dude that could fire this guy is watching the whole situation. He was going on vacation. So he just happened to be on this flight because they get free flights. And he watches the whole thing.
Yeah.
And I was just sitting there the whole time
It's like
this.
cops.
I was like, oh my gosh, this dude just got busted. That happened like 3 months ago. It was crazy.
Yeah, I was just checking
Probably
on
6 months ago.
I literally, when you started, I was checking on the flights to see how many are delayed with the snowstorm coming in. And then when you start talking, I'm like, wait, I figured this was going to be something like, they totally forgot to give me snacks on this one flight, or
no, dude.
Instead, it was
this was like what would you do? Do you remember that show? What would you do? Where they would like cause scenarios and see the way people would react.
Yeah,
that's literally what it felt like. I was like, what the frick?
Kutcher's about to.
I sent my sister like a sick, because her and I fly a lot just in like our lives, and I sent her like a 6-page text. I was like, I told her the whole story. I was like, this is something I've never seen before. It was freaking crazy. But
wow,
it is crazy.
We should probably do a podcast today.
We're jumping in. All right. So we've actually been on a little bit of a rediscover spree, if I'm not mistaken. I think this is episode 7, and we have another rediscover angle. So for those of you who haven't listened to the podcast before, Modern Man, it seeks to rediscover and redeem the heart of man in the modern world. So rediscover meaning finding something that masculinity once had that we don't have in the same way now, and integrating it into who we are today, or redeeming something that is still with us but isn't the way that it should be. And maybe it has never been the way it should be. Maybe it should be differently, and we just have those discussions here. But we're hitting a rediscover angle today on rediscovering. So, I guess cut out the ing. We're going to rediscover the process. And Noah has kind of the angle that he's going to launch us into. So you want to take it on?
Yeah, thanks, man. So this actually came from, we were going to go somewhere different a couple weeks ago. And then this week I was out in Salt Lake City with a conference with our organization. And Brad and I were talking a lot when he was out there. And then I continued the conversation with another guy. And what I was realizing was that there's a ton of specifically men right now who are gifted in maybe they're just gifted, let's say. They're very gifted individuals. And when they are going to enter into a field of work or expertise, they want the top spot right away. They're not waiting. They're not looking for a process. They are jumping in and saying, if I don't get the whole cake right now, I'm not going to be a part of this organization, or I'm not going to be a part of this job. With our organization, we have a 2-year kind of program process for men and women to really grow so that they can be everything they're supposed to be. And what we're seeing in our organization right now is that there's not a lot of men who are entrepreneurial, who are alpha, who are really gifted, that have a desire to enter this program, because they're like, no, I just want to come right onto your staff. I don't want to go through the program first. I don't want to go through the process, because that looks hard and difficult and servant oriented. And I want the whole cake right now. And I even look back to the three of us, like, I don't know if we would have said to the program we were offered that I don't think if we would have joined it if we didn't see a real vision pitch that we were building something, right? Like it was very clear that we were going to be building something. But I think this is the state of a lot of men, is that if they're not building right away and they have to, I guess, submit themselves and grow in servitude and grow in character and grow in discipline, they're very hesitant to do that. They'd rather jump in and be the top dog right away, which, like, I was continuing this conversation after you had left, Brad, and with another guy, and he said that this moment clicked for him, like this thought process clicked for him when he was watching the Packers like 2 weeks ago. Because what he was saying was basically, and this is true, like Brett Favre, right? Brett Favre's a quarterback. Aaron Rodgers, I think he gets drafted in 2004, I believe. Top quarterback, like incredible quarterback. He has to sit behind Brett Favre, even when he's going up and down, for 3 years. And that had to have been miserable for him, right? Like he came from being the top dog to having to sit behind this quarterback for 3 years and watch him suck sometimes and do really well sometimes. And then he gets the starting job and he's the quarterback for a while. And then another really solid quarterback comes out of college by the name of Jordan Love, and he has to sit for a couple years. And as my friend was talking to me about this, like we started to try to name rookie quarterbacks who have dominated right out of out of college, and the number's very low. Like these guys who get the whole cake right away, they struggle a lot.
Well,
and
it's even lower who sustain it over time.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's even lower. Yeah, exactly. The ones that actually stay in the league, like a ton drop. Yep. And so but the reality is the ones that sat behind a star for a while and submitted to growth and submitted to coaching ended up being really sustainable and dominant. And I think that's the thing that I want to talk about today is this reality that there's a greatness in the process. There's a greatness in having to submit yourself to somebody who might know a little bit more than you and might have a little bit more wisdom and a couple more gray hairs and a couple more years to teach you what you need, even though you're talented, basically what you need to carry out that talent in a good way. And so today I want to talk about rediscovering the process. Like, what does it look like for men to rediscover sitting behind maybe being the second string, right? Sitting behind the star, learning from the star, sitting behind a program or joining a job at a lower level and working their way up. Like, what does it look like to actually submit ourselves to the process? Because in history, this was very normal. Like most people knew that it was going to be 20 years before they got to a C-suite position, right? Nowadays, because of the access to media, because of the way in which our leaders lead, we have instant access to a lot of leadership and a lot of opportunity to do whatever we want a lot faster. Yeah. And I think that's a detriment to men.
Or even go back further, right? So people started building cathedrals that their children's children wouldn't even see.
Yeah, generations. There's a
generational way of thinking. The thing that comes to mind, though, when you're kicking us off here that I think could provide cool conversation is I think this is a truism. Talent shows me what I'm good at. The process shows me what I'm bad at. Like talent shows you what I'm going to excel in immediately. The process shows you what I still need developed in so that talent can be complemented well and I can be whole and complete and moving forward. And I've experienced that in my life for sure. I was thinking back to what you were saying. I do think there was maybe a grace though for us to say yes, because there was no part of me that thought that process was going to be done today. Like they were showing us like, hey, here's something that we're building towards and we hope we can get there. But there was also the caveat to it of like, but we can't promise you a job past Christmas. Like we're not sure how long it's going to take. I think there was a part of me that's like, I'm in this for as long as it takes. I remember talking to my dad and being like, Dad, I think this is going to take at least 5 years. Like at least 5 years. Like I don't want you to like have in your mind that I'm going to go do this thing for a year and go back to law school the way we had always talked about. I really think that this is going to take something from me. But the only reason I was able to do that is because the men that were selling me that vision were men that had engaged in a process. And I do think it's men that go through a process testifying to how the process grew them and shaped them and was uncomfortable and was something they didn't even know they wanted. Maybe even it's something they knew they didn't want. But on the other side, when you can see your weaknesses next to your strengths and not always just default to your strengths, what begins happening is you become a better version of yourself 100% of the time.
Yeah, we live in a weird world that is devoid of like coaching and mentorship, and I think even at its root, it's like fatherlessness. So I think we live in a world where it's the most fatherless generation in our history, right? There's more men in prison, more men divorced, there are more men that are abusive. There's so many things in society that are rooted in fatherlessness. And I think you think about, I mean, we're talking about some things in modern history of like people rising to the top, like Carnegie and Rockefeller. But as you even go further back, like thousands of years, it's like everything came from a tribe, right? Everything came from a chief. And I think we have unfortunately created a real problem in our society where everyone can believe they're an alpha male. And it's like everyone can be like, actually used to be only one chief. Like there used to be actually only one alpha male, which is the definition of an alpha male. It's like there's one.
There's one.
And so
alpha A, the beginning, right? The first.
And so, but you go on Instagram and you go on TikTok and you go on all these things and everyone's like, there's all these dudes that are like, I'm an alpha. It's like, no, seriously, it's like, pay me 30 grand. I need 5 men who are in their 30s that want to make 100 grand this year. It's like this freakazoid. Like there are, but it's like, we have normalized this mentality of like, anyone can get there and it can happen overnight and you don't need anyone else but yourself to do it. And you can be a made man. And I think that's a cancer to society. And I think, there's I think probably a place for judgment in our society that we need to have. Like there is I think sometimes we can fault, especially in a Christian context of like, oh, I don't want to be judgy or I don't want to judge things. It's like, no, actually we can use our judgment here. Like this is a real issue and a real problem that I think men don't know how to come underneath someone because pride is at the root. I think pride's at the root, and there's just a lot of issues there. So, I mean, that's my brief take on it.
Yeah, I think another problem too is when you do come under someone, it's easy for you to begin pinning your strengths against their weaknesses. So you begin saying like, well, if they can do that, like, look at how strong I am in those areas where they're weak, but you're not assessing their strengths on their merits, right? So I also think there's this problem where I begin to associate myself with my strengths and other people with their weaknesses so as to differentiate myself to myself. I think part of the reason we can't engage the process is we are like in a real way scared that we won't be able to do it. Like in a real way, we think if we can just go off our talent, I've seen myself succeed when I rely on my talent time and time again. And I've seen myself be humiliated maybe, or not be able to live up to my expectation whenever I engage the process. So I'm in complete agreement, but a lot of that comes from we also need to be the sorts of men, if we've been through a process, that honor the men that desire to be in a process, to be the sorts of men that look at the person in front of us and go, I can't wait for you to be way better than me. I don't need to tell you how good I am. Like the best men in our lives, and we all know guys like this, that they've never once told me how good they are. No. They've always told me what they see in me. And it's made me respect them in a way that I don't respect the guys that are like, hey, look at my yacht. You know, it's like, okay, great. Yeah. I'm glad you have a yacht. Actually, like that's probably taken something to get, but why, like you're making yourself the main character of my story. And like, I think your 20s, at least in my experience, my 20s just taught me that I'm not the main character of my story. I'm not the main character of everyone else's story, even if I'm the main character of my own. You know, like everyone else is charting their path, and I want to be a part of that and benefit along the way. So,
and I think within all that too, it's something that when we immediately think we can do it on our own, we're cheating ourselves of a very valuable insight, right? So I think, you know, the guys you mentioned, Jordan Love, Aaron Rodgers. I mean, I think of Patrick Mahomes sat behind Alex Smith for a year. Like these guys, to your point, it's like very few people ever come and make a breakout right away. But then even then, before that, it's like they probably had some degree of mentorship or coaching or something that they didn't just come out of the woodwork. And I think when we think about in our own lives, like the three of us, we've been working for the same organization for almost a decade. You guys are 10 year or 9, somewhere right around 9.
So my entire like post-grad
professional life has been with the same organization. And I think the cool thing about it is no one came in offering us the ability to be on the leadership team of the organization. No one said, hey, this is like what we're offering you right now. It was commensurate with the appropriate state of life you were in, right? So I think people are fooling themselves if they think they're that good, right? I think a lot of young men listening to this, and even just young men in the world, are fooling themselves thinking they're as good as they think they are, right? 100%. Like we have all been in conversations with young men who, when we invite them to consider an opportunity to serve the organization we do, they think they're too good to be trained, right? They think they're too good to come under something. And I've heard people
too good to start there.
Yeah. And I've heard people that are like, I could make $100,000 right now. And it's like, no, you couldn't. Like you actually couldn't. You have no idea how much hard work it takes to make $100,000. Like you don't. You're not that good. And I think that's where I was talking about like that the importance of judgment. And I don't mean that to be like judgy and saying like you guys all suck, but like we need to have a dose of reality that you just can't come in and make it right away. You can't just come in and be like, oh yeah, I have everything right away, because you're cheating yourself of a very valuable process of development, right? I think one of the most impressionable messages that I think the three of us have ever heard is this idea of the dark room, like likening film. Like if you take film and put it in a dark room, it's where it develops, right? So if you expose it to light too early, though, it's where the film gets ruined. And so there's a necessary process to nature of something becoming mature, right? This is why we don't give 6-year-old guns. This is why we don't give 12-year-old licenses, because there's a maturation that has to occur through life experience in order to be handed something of great responsibility. And I think now it's like, okay, so 10 years into this organization, and Noah's in charge of basically like sales and marketing for an organization that reaches over 50,000 people in a year. Like that's a pretty hefty amount of responsibility. Selling out spots to campers and to retreatants that I mean, we're talking in the 10,000s number of trying to fill these, right? Brad is responsible for the marketing and communications and the podcasts and the music that comes out for this organization that impacts, we're talking in millions of numbers, right? I'm in charge of fundraising over $6 million annually. Like, these are things that were not given to us 10 years ago. This is something,
God.
right? Absolutely. It would have crushed us.
Yep.
But it's something that was, again, commensurate with experience and came only after a lot of hardship and a lot of like failure and a lot of mistakes and a lot of patience from people who led us.
Yep.
And that's where I think when you're talking, Brad, earlier of like the difference between the rookie sensation who comes in and then literally is never heard of again. Like, I mean, I think about every freaking Browns quarterback. It's like, okay, where's Johnny Manziel? Okay, where, you know what I mean? Like,
right. They've had 40 in the last, I forget how many years, but it's insane.
Yeah, no, I saw a dude's Browns
The
jersey.
old jersey. Yeah, I saw the same thing.
And it was like every name from the last 40
and he
years.
had to like put 3 names on one slot because it got so long. Yeah,
Yes.
I agree. I think I wonder what you think about it too, Noah, because what Sam's saying is 100% in lockstep with me. I was actually thinking recently, I didn't, this was before I knew we were going to do this for the show. I was just taking my prayer time and just went on like kind of a thought experiment. I was thinking about my life and how some things have taken longer than maybe I would have desired at like a younger age, but how I'm beginning to be more okay with that than ever. And is that okay that I'm okay with that now? Like all these wrestles. But then something came to my mind. I was like, how many like early sensations, let's say people that get really, really wealthy at 16, 18, 20, 22, how many of those, we'll talk men specifically, how many of those boys become the sort of man that I want to become? Mm-hmm. And I legitimately like could not think of one. And that's not an insult. Like, and tell me, please send it in the comments if I'm missing something, because it's not supposed to be a declaration of like, look how good we are because we've waited. It was more just this like, be careful what you wish for. Like be careful to play the right game, right? Like be careful to not play the game of like, how can I get the most attention right now, but how I can become who I'm made to be. And when I looked at it, I was like, man, that guy's really broken in this season of life. And that guy really fell off there. And it's like, whoa, like, Lord, never allow the blessings in my life to outweigh my character. Like, never allow a skyscraper to be built on a fractured foundation in me, because that's gonna collapse. But I wonder what you think about it. But that's
it's unique because we were in such a funny generation because when did you guys have your first cell phones? Like,
I didn't get mine until 9th grade, and it was a pink flip phone.
Yeah,
I didn't even want to take it out of my pocket.
Yeah, I was 16 and I had some.
When did you guys get your first iPhone?
College.
17, 18.
Yeah, I got my first iPhone when I was 16. And so you think about the generation coming up right now, like, it's another body part for them. Like, their cell phone is another, like an iPhone is what they have. And so, and the enemy of the process is instant gratification. So you grew up in these kids, I'm still young. They're young too, but like these people that are growing up that are 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, they grew up with with an iPhone in hand at all times. Like my younger brother, who's an awesome kid, I can remember him at the age of 3 just playing Temple Run. You remember that game?
Oh, Temple Run.
Temple Run at the age of 3 just dominating.
Like, what's crazy is I was in college at that point and he was
yeah, 3? He was like 3, yeah. But the thing is, like, that is what they were growing up with, like constant gratification, and it's instant. It's at their fingertips. And they grew up watching sports where you had, like LeBron, who, and I got to take a shot at LeBron whenever I get the chance. But LeBron, who he couldn't win in Cleveland. He wasn't winning in Cleveland, so he said, "Well, I'll just jump on a team with other superstars and make it happen." The Boston Celtics did a similar. They were at the end of their career, so I think it's a little different. But like their whole life, they're just seeing instant gratification in front of them all the time. And so, of course, when they have the opportunity to come up and be like, okay, it's my time to shine, they think their time to shine is right now. But again, that light exposure ruins the picture.
Can I mount a quick defense? It's also our responsibility to be the sorts of people that engage young talent in a process. So he went to one of the most dysfunctional organizations of all time.
Yeah.
Whereas someone like Michael Jordan, he goes to the most successful college basketball program of all time, and he sits humbly. And what's the joke?
Submitted himself.
The only person that could keep him under 20 was Dean Smith.
Yep.
Like Dean Dean developed him at North Carolina, and then he goes to Chicago, which was dysfunctional, but they had a guy named Phil Jackson who was the opposite of dysfunctional. He was the sort of person that had a process. In fact, his triangle offense is still probably one of the greatest processes basketball has ever seen. Kobe, like right before he passed, was actually like regularly talking about how basketball now is just a guessing game where you just drive and kick. But Phil had a dedicated reality to everything you were doing. Now again, but aside from that, I do think where I agree with you is like LeBron, like the things that drive me crazy about LeBron, even though I think he's the best to ever do it, like just hit a guy in his shooting pocket, right? Like when you're kicking it out, like you can do all the fancy like passing, you get them while they're wide open because you draw double teams, but maybe hit them in their shooting pocket so they don't have to step over and make a weird shot. Like I think there's just certain things that happen in the process that talent can't make up for. And again, not as like an insult at him or any of the people listening or us who have talents in a variety of ways. Maybe none that are as exceptional as LeBron's in athleticism, but like we all have like crazy talents and we can lean on it. But what ends up happening is if you over lean on that, you're going to walk with a limp, right? Like you're going to miss, you're going to miss other parts.
Jordan did have 2 coaches before Phil Jackson.
Bad
Just fact checking, just to be honest. He did not have Phil Jackson out of the gate. But he did have a massive ton of issues though. So like this is where I do think that when we compare people, it's like okay, so you had a gambling issue, had I don't know if he didn't have alcohol. He just women.
But he did a lot of things. He had issues.
But anyway, but the thing about LeBron, and I do want to honor him for a minute, is like, it is actually amazing, even though I don't agree with everything that he stands for. It's amazing that a man who grew up without a father, grew up in inner city Akron, grew up in a rough area town, went to high school, and then went into the NBA right out of high school, became successful, played for these different organizations, has never really had any major incident that has ever been, I mean, like we're sitting here today and like news broke about all these different Fox anchors that are paying women to have sex with them.
That's crazy.
And it's like, okay, it's just okay. Like I've never heard anything about LeBron.
Well, and a lot of that, give credit to Spoelstra, similar to what you were saying. You had like these, like Spoelstra had been in the league. He knew how to handle superstars, just like Phil did with Jordan. So I again, that debate can go, but again, what I'm trying to just say is I want to give it back to you, but the two sides is like, be sure you want to engage a process because you should want to, but also let's be the sorts of men that give into the process so that we can develop processes later to bring men into, because you're not going to you're not just going to stumble into this. Like a fatherless generation needs people that are committed to fathering them.
Yes.
And what does it mean to father someone? It means I look at you and want you to be better than me. Like period. Like that's the easiest definition of fatherhood ever. And I know that doesn't happen by giving you everything right now. I know that happens. Well, you can speak to, you have 2 boys, right? Like I have like a little girl and it's different and beautiful, but I can see that in boys. It's like, no, I'm not going to give you what you want right now. Cause I'm playing a decades long game. I'm not playing a like hour game. I'm not playing a this minute game. I'm playing a longer game.
No, absolutely. And I think, I mean, I'm not trying to jump straight to practicals, but I do think that when we hear this, like we can all probably agree that this is an issue that that men want, and there is a place for like the bucking bronco. Like there's a place for like the heart of a man to want to be this like stallion that's kind of like unbroken horse. And like to be, but again, it's like it has to be under the guide of like an experienced ranch hand. Like there has to be someone who's like watching and guiding and then like breaking the horse incrementally. Like it can't just be this thing where it's like, you're just a loose cannon your whole life, because then you end up dying in a fiery blaze and other people end up getting hurt by it. Right. So I think there has to be this combination between, like, if you don't have a mentor or a coach or a series of mentors or coaches or people in your life of influence that can help speak into your life in this way, you need to find that. And then secondly, you can't always depend on that person, right? Because I think all of us have been in, we have all experienced people who are mentors or coaches, but they're not there all the time. They can't be there all the time, right? So you have to have other people that are accessible to you, right? So I have a series of mentors and coaches in my life, but then I have my brothers, like I have my community of men. And it's not 50,000 people. It's like, I've got like 4 dudes that I can depend on, that like, if I'm having a hard night, like, because this happened, I've called Brad at like 11 PM before and been like, dude, I need to talk about something. It's like, I'm struggling with Judah, or I'm like struggling with Leo, or there's something going on in my marriage and I need to talk about someone who's not in my family. There's an importance to that, of you like putting down your defenses to someone else, right? Like there has to be this ability to be vulnerable There has to be this ability to say, I need someone else, because the whole world, I'm serious, like scroll on Instagram for 5 minutes, you're going to find these cheap, fake ass people that are trying to take advantage of you. That's all they're trying to do. They're trying to pry on your weakness, that they know that you're not confident in yourself, that you know yourself, that you need something, and they're trying to con you into giving them money so that you can become an overnight success. And that just doesn't happen. You need real people who aren't trying to get something from you. They're trying to give something to you. That's right. So we need to find mentors, coaches, and community in our life.
Well, and I think the theme that I'm hearing from really all of us is this reality that you can't do it alone, right? Like we were last night, just before we had an early flight to catch, and so after dinner it was like 7:00. We turned on a movie. We turned on The Incredibles, and
nice.
I had not seen that movie in probably 10 to 15 years. That is a great movie.
It's a great movie.
Yeah.
It is an insanely good movie.
Quotable.
Quotable. Literally the whole thing. But what blew me away was the theme of that movie is that you got a dude who's incredibly strong, incredibly gifted. Obviously, he's a superhero, but he was trying to do everything alone. He was trying to do everything alone, and the whole movie is all about like, dude, you're better when you're not alone. And the one of the dudes I was watching it with, like, I even want to just take a minute to honor him, because what I see in him, like I was sitting next to him the whole movie, and I was thinking about him as we were watching it, because like he was an incredibly gifted 18-year-old, like one of the most gifted 18-year-olds I've ever met in his field, right? Like he was a gifted musical talent, like insanely gifted. And out of high school, like he could have been making, I don't know, 30 to 40,000 out of high school as an 18-year-old. It just playing places and leading music in certain places. And
he was already so mature.
Yeah, he was so mature for an 18-year-old. He was entrepreneurial and all this stuff. And he chose to submit himself to this organization and to that we work for, and to the program. And for those 2 years, he did very little like legitimate music, like career building. Yeah. And he knew that. He was like, look, I know I'm not going to be career building, and I know that I could go and probably do this as a Lone Ranger, but I didn't. And this was, 6 years ago when he was doing this. He continued to submit himself, and then he even got another opportunity in the last 4 years to go and do his own thing and actually sign with the record label and like literally be a Lone Ranger. But he again said, no, I'm going to submit myself. I'm going to stay where I'm at. I'm not going to move to Nashville. I'm going to stay here in Columbus, and I'm going to continue to grind it out with the community. And as he's continued to do it, you've just seen a crazy amount of maturity lead to a lot of success. He had the number one, literally counting my blessings, number one song in the world for like months.
Posting it on Instagram for his birthday.
He's like, I flew back with him today, and it was like every other person saying, hey, I love your music. I love your, like from Salt Lake to Las Vegas, all the way to Columbus. Like he's known across the world. He's led people in music, thousands of people in Brazil. He's, he's doing amazing things. And I actually asked him like on the flight, I'm like, dude, why don't you just do your own thing now? Like, why don't you go and just be free? Like, cause you're going to make a lot more money than staying with this organization. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And he's like, if there's anything I've learned it's that doing it alone never works, and that running with a pack of alphas is always going to be better than being alone. Yeah. And it just like, I just want to honor him for that, because it even hit me, because I'm like, I'm sitting there and I'm saying, dude, the price tag is better if you leave. And he's like, the price tag is not worth the man that I could become. Yeah.
And I love it because he's not a sellout. Like he's in a world of sellouts, he's not. I mean, to see Joseph like be seriously, I mean, I remember going into the auditorium on our campus where we were like, this man has lived the 10,000 hours, yes. Like dark room. He's in there.
PM,
yes.
12 PM,
oh my gosh. Like all the time.
Playing,
yes.
Writing.
And it's like, I mean, one of the most creative talents, to your point, Noah, that could just completely just go off on their own. And I think there's a huge learning lesson there. It's humility is the key to everything in life, right? If you want to think you're really hot shit, then go do it, and you're going to fail miserably. Yeah. But if you want to submit yourself to a process, to a people, to a way of life, you're going to be way better for it. Yeah. I've never seen a single person who is an island not fall into horrible things.
Even if you're successful.
Yeah.
Well, and Joseph's so creatively gifted that he didn't settle for Joe or Joey. He went with Seth. So that just shows you how creative he is. But no, I think I think about Joseph a lot too. And I think about you guys as well, to be completely honest, because I think one of the things that I have learned more and more in my life, and most of it by accident, is that I want to be the sort of man that runs in an alpha pack. Like I don't want to be the smartest at a table. I don't want to be the strongest in a gym. I don't want to be the most successful in a cohort. Like I don't want any of that. I want to run with guys that are as good, if not better than me. And I want to work to keep up. Mm-hmm. And I don't mean that in a performance way. I mean that 100% in a production way. I mean that I want to become and produce in me the fruits that I was made to produce. And I can tell you because before I was doing the marketing side of things, Noah and Sam both know this. One of my like deepest passions was like architecting the 2-year program that allowed people to give a yes that was hard. Like a yes that was challenging, a yes that said like, hey, those dreams will be better if they wait. Do the hard thing now. And that was my sell. I mean, I traveled all around the country recruiting people to do that thing. And I still believe in it. I mean, like, if you ever want to like have a litmus test, like I want all my kids to do it, you know? So like, I'm proud of it. Like I believe in it. And I've been wondering why I believe in it. And I think it's because of how brokenhearted I've been when I've seen the men that I wanted to do it not do it. And I don't even know if it was because of an owner. I don't think it was any of that. Like at a younger age, I probably would have been like, well, I wanted it for egotism or whatever. Yep. I don't think that's right though. Like I was brokenhearted because the guy's like, no, I'm just so good. I'm going to do it my own way. And I've seen like now being 5-7 years removed from those decisions, I've seen the hardship. You know, like I'll see them come to campus and see me and we'll have to have a conversation about something really rough in their life right now. And it's like, man, you went and did it by yourself. Yeah. You went and did it by yourself. And you're not going to be able to get that back. But what you need to commit to now is not doing it by yourself. Get it. Like, so if you're listening and you've made a decision where it's like, I'm going to go the lone route, and maybe you were super successful or maybe you failed epically, or maybe it's some hybrid of those two. Maybe there's great challenges. Like I would super encourage you, get into living life with guys that want the same ends that you want. Because it's changed my life, you know, it's changed my life.
Well, tell me help me articulate this phrase. Well, the thing that's coming to mind, and there might be a better way to say it, so help me with this. But I think in a lot of ways what we're saying is don't go somewhere where your ceiling is you.
Yeah.
Don't go somewhere where your ceiling is you.
Yeah.
Like go somewhere where you can be with a group of people where you may have something to give them, but they sure as heck have something to give you so that your ceiling is not you.
Yeah, that's right.
Like have people above you who are doing greater, bigger, better things so that you can go under them and understand how to move and operate in those places.
Yeah, don't become your own limit, right? Because, and you guys have heard me say this before, I wonder what you think about it though, Sam, because I know some of the commitments you've been making recently have called me on to just like get back into routine and care for the aspects of my life that I've let fall. But like you and I have talked about this, to know a limit as a limit is to be beyond it. So you only like, listen to this, okay? If you don't hear anything else in this podcast, like, to know a limit as a limit is to have been beyond it. Like if you call the limit what you're doing right now, you'll never go beyond it. And if what you're saying is right now, this is all I can give, or this is all I can do, or whatever, or I'm very content and happy with where I'm at, you are likely not where you should be. Like pushing yourself to the place where it's like, oh, I feel like I'm breaking. Like I'm past me. Like I'm not good enough to do this thing. That's where you know where your real limit's at, and that gap of weakness then becomes your target area. It's like, I've pushed myself like, whoa, I'm sore. Whoa, I'm past my comfort zone. Whoa, how many decisions have we made for Damascus that have been epic failures? Like I know for me, it's like, oh man, I was
Tons.
over my skis.
Oh yeah.
I was over my skis. But that's good to be there. And the only way that you're going to be there and not give up on yourself is if you're there with other dudes, right? But again, don't be your own limit. Be a person that goes beyond the limit, but in a way that doesn't allow you to collapse, right? To push yourself. And because I know, like, I get text from Sam like, "Hey, when are you going to come to CrossFit with me and like push yourself?" No, but I mean that. It's like, come push yourself. And there's fears that I got to get past in a variety of things in my life. But
no, for sure. Yeah, I agree with you there. I think that you got to be willing and able to fail fast and fail forward. And I think that idea of progress is the enemy of perfection. So just being able to go out, do something, and not have to have in your mind like I need to be this person tomorrow. You just got to take steps on the journey to get there. I do think I am struggling a little bit with this idea because I think we do live in a little bit of an anomaly, right? So the three of us have incredible friendships. We have a lot of amazing people around us. there are many people who live in the world and in America that are from rural communities who have, I mean, like seriously, there's probably people who are like, I don't want to leave my job to go somewhere else. I don't want to pick up and move somewhere else. Like, how do people find what we're talking about where they're at? Cause I think that's the reality for most people is they're not gonna quit their job, nor should they probably, right? Yeah. Like, they're not gonna just get up and go try to find a whole new group of friends. So how do you find what we're talking about in the circumstance that most men find themselves, which is
that's the right question.
In a family, in a community, and maybe that, you know what I mean? Just question marks here.
Yeah. Well, hopefully eventually through modern men networks, you know, like that would be a gift. Like where you got guys that are wanting to be committed to the same thing you're committed to, and you can meet no matter where you're at, because that's the gift of technology. We talked about the shortcomings of it, but very practically though, what I would say is quantity is not the goal here. Quality is. Yeah. So even if you are someone that's as remote as you know how to be, well, let me say it like this. If you're as remote and content with your life as you could possibly be, and you don't have one dude, you need to move. Like you need to move, because if you don't have one dude, you're screwed. And I believe that, because I think what happens is we can find ourselves in a place of complacency and stagnancy without knowing that's where we're at. And I don't even mean forever. I just mean for a season. Like, even if you're locked in, let's say that you're early in marriage, you're like 1 or 2 years in and you're still renting. It's like, go rent in an area where you can meet new connections that are of the same way of life as you. Join a CrossFit gym, like, and drive 30 minutes to it. So maybe it's not like physically, but move yourself. Sure. You can't stay in your stuff, because if you don't have at least one, now getting that exception to the side, I'm sure everyone that's listening has at least one guy that they're like, man, we've maybe not talked in a couple years, but I know reach out and make that connection.
Too, to be like,
reach out and make that connection.
Be like, hey, dude, we graduated college 10 years ago, but you were a guy that I always remember being like, you get after it. Like, can we like call each other once a week, or
humility?
Yeah.
I need someone to run with.
Right.
And again, I wanted to use the exceptional case because I think it would rub us the most. But yeah, if you're in a place where you're like, I don't got one guy, you need to move, whether that's to a gym or to a new location or with your, like, you can discern that. But if you have, which most of us will, 1 or 2 guys, you got to be the initiator, because the process isn't going to come to you. Right. You have to go into the process.
You just said it, Brad. So what you just said is, if you're around no one who's going hard, go find some, and by going hard, like doing hard things, find some place where you know people are doing hard things. Like, Sam, you went and found CrossFit because you knew that'd be a place where there's going to be other people who are doing hard things.
Yeah, they're going to go after
like,
something.
So go find some place where you see other people doing hard things, and that will automatically, like a rising tide lifts all boats, right? So it's going to automatically make you better. I would also say this, that I have 2 other things. So I would also say this: if you don't have anyone in your life who's going to push you to that place, pick something to do, and then find someone to do it with, and do that hard thing together. And just try it. Like, I can think of a few dudes who, like, I have family from the country, and they, you know, it is a little bit remote. But I bet you money, like, if one of my cousins who kind of lives remote, and if he picked another one of his friends and they just stopped drinking for 40 days, they would grow. Like, they would experience that growth or whatever it is. Like, and then the third thing is this, that we are in a digital age. So, like, don't be afraid to literally reach out to somebody that you see online, or like on Instagram, if you have Instagram, or where, like, don't be afraid to do that. Like, reach out to them and ask them if they have capacity. And if they tell you no, ask another person. Like, don't be discouraged. That is so humiliating and humbling. Like, to ask for help, and maybe that person doesn't have time, you got to ask for another person. But like, my mentor, that I'm actually looking to ask very soon, he doesn't live in Ohio. He lives 8 hours away from me. So for me, my mentorship is going to look like a phone call every 2 weeks. Right. It's not going to look like me meeting up and doing a workout with this person. It's going to be every 2 weeks. And that's the beauty of the digital age.
Yeah. I want to throw it back to you, Sam, but honestly too, if something like a Modern Men Network would bless you, throw that in the comments. But I want to throw it back to you, because I think, how would you answer your own question? So, like, when you think about, because you tend to be a little more practical than Noah and I think those are good examples of what you could do, though. But I'm sure you have something that you've thought of, or at least are wrestling.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that, and this is the beautiful continuity of the Modern Man podcast, right? So we talk about things that don't necessarily build on each other or feel like they're super chronological, but you can take pieces of what we've talked about or like consistent thematic ideas, right? So something we go back to all the time is this idea of being in the arena, right? Yeah. And being able to name what are your key priorities in your life. So I think, yes, you can and you should find people. Anyone can name storm, right? It's like a sales tactic. Like you can think about like who are the 50 people in your sphere of influence that you could reach out to about something that you want from them, right? Do the same thing, but do it a little bit more like, hey, I want to help you and you need to help me here, right? This is like being able to sharpen each other. So I think being able to name storm some people, and because I did this when I lived in Minnesota. Like I lived for 3 years, I lived away from some of my closest friends and I didn't have guys. Like every single person that I met, I was like we can be around each other, but ultimately this is just another situation where I'm giving myself to someone else, right? Like where I'm the dude who has to run it. I'm the dude who has to start it. I'm the dude who's like ultimately the leader of this thing. And I don't want to be the leader of this thing. I just want to be someone who's Sam. Like I want to be amongst equals here. And so every couple weeks we would hop on a FaceTime at 6 in the morning my time, and we would have a small group over FaceTime. Like you do not have to be close to each other.
When you were in town, you made the effort.
We made the effort to play basketball when I was in town.
To send something. You
absolutely.
Physically.
So I'm in agreement with what you guys are saying, but then I think in a way that's similar but different to what we were saying earlier. So you are not. You do not have to try to be the lone wolf. You do not have to try to be the person who's the self-made man, but you do have to work on yourself. So I think there's this element of what we're talking about here where you have to do the work. Like you just have to be able to say, part of the process is not me coming to someone and being like, tell me how to fix my life.
Yes.
And come to other people.
That won't work.
No, it won't. And then it's like, because what you're doing is you're going to someone else and saying, hey, fix my shitty life. And it's like, that doesn't work.
No.
And going to the guys around you and just complaining doesn't work.
Nope.
And so there has to be this combination of being able to be like, yes, okay, I'm going to receive feedback from my coach. I'm going to receive encouragement and pushback from my teammates, but then you got to go in and do the work, right? So when we think about guys like Mahomes and Jordan and Kobe and LeBron, it's like the countless stories that I hear about Jordan and Kobe specifically, who are like, they're in the gym at 5 a.m. lifting when no one else is.
No one else.
They're in there when everyone else is sleeping. And it's like, to be that type of person who's like, okay, if you want it that bad, put your money where your mouth is, right? And so all these guys that are saying like, I can do it by myself, it's like, actually, you're just all talk. And I'm happy to say it to your face because I've only ever seen that you're all talk. Like you've never actually progressed your life other than just talking about it. Yeah. So to be able to say, I'm actually going to put my money where my mouth is and develop who I am. So I think that's the additional element I would say here is, yes, name storm. Think about men in your community. Think about people. But ultimately, it's building a team around you to become a champion, to become the person who you were created to be. And that's finding the coach, having teammates, but then doing the work to put the work in and to develop yourself.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, the process, just by engaging the process, you don't find the end result. It's by engaging the process, learning from the process, developing in the process, and becoming the sort of man.
And at the end of the day, you might just you might just rise.
You might just rise,
become a champion.
You might just rise and become a champion.
Well, and that's I mean, I don't know. Have you guys seen the Dream Team? Not the Dream Team but the Redeem Team documentary?
Kobe one. Yeah, Kobe and LeBron.
So I mean, that's the best story in that whole documentary. That's like, I get goosebumps when I watch it every time, because it's the story when Chris Bosh and Dwayne Wade and LeBron and Carmelo, they all go out one night with the rest of the team, and they all come back, and it's like, they're back in the morning after like going to the club. They get back from the club at like 4:30 in the morning or 4 in the morning, and they see Kobe walking to go to the gym, and they were all like, crap, I got to pull my life together. I got to start working hard. And they had lost, a number of the FIBA and even the Olympics games. Yeah, they were super underperforming. Yeah. And what Kobe did was he was getting after it right away. He set a tone. Yeah. And Kobe wasn't on any of those other teams. Yeah. But this year, coming hot off of losing to the Celtics, he joins the Olympic team. He's going hard. And then they say that, I think by a week after that, everyone was waking up at Kobe's time and lifting with Kobe for the rest of the Olympics. And they dominated.
That's the benefit of an alpha pack.
Yes.
Is because there's going to be days where you're off. Like that's just reality.
100%.
You're going to be off. You're going to have made a decision you wish you didn't make. But when you can see around you guys that are still staying true to what you all committed to, it brings you back into what you're saying. It's like, wait, I want to develop, and it gives you a focus. And I don't mean that purely as a segue, but I think that's what we're trying to do here too, right? We don't just want to talk about the topics. We want to try to implement them in our lives. And I know that we've been trying to get more and more diligent on our principal objectives. So just the PO that we do at the end of the show, the goal of it is to really make a claim on this is what I'm going to do. I've heard this. This is great. I want to do this in my life. Last time we talked about generosity. This time we're talking about the process. We always check in on how it went last time and then declare what we're going to do this time. Last time on like gratitude, excuse me, I said generosity, but last time on gratitude, I wanted to be more grateful for the different arenas of my life. I have 5 arenas that I check in on, and it was really a really good process for me as I was ranking myself and rating myself in the different areas that I want to be excellent in, being really grateful for the elements of it that were going well or didn't go so well and taught me something. And I was able to do that really every day between last recording and this. And I feel like it's something that the Lord's bringing into my life because gratitude is important, like we talked about last time. Either you guys want to jump in? How'd your PO for gratitude go?
My PO from last time was gratitude journaling. So doing that every day as a part of my morning reflection and meditation. So that's something that I actually did. This is the best PO that I've done so far. I did it every day. So it was consistently journaled and spent probably 5 minutes each morning thinking about what I was grateful for.
Let's go, man.
So
yeah, that's awesome.
It's good.
No?
Yeah, mine was waking up every morning and thinking about something I'm grateful for. And since then, I've implemented the best thing in my life ever, which is the cold plunge. Changed my life. So my mornings have been incredibly joyful. And I feel like every morning, my routine has just been cold plunge and then get in the weight room. And since then, I feel like my whole demeanor has been different. And so every morning everyone around me too, everyone in my life knows that I've been very grateful for that cold plunge and grateful for my mornings because I don't stop talking about it. So it's been going super well actually, which is exciting.
That's worth it. That's awesome. The process, maybe something that convicted us, something we want to do.
Happy to go for it. So in the last thing we were talking about of Kobe and just that idea of like kind of that phrase came to me of it's better to be consistently good than occasionally great, right? This idea of like day in, day out, having this consistent goodness and consistency in your life. And so what I want to do is really kind of that analogy we used of like a team. Like I see that book over there, The Rise of a Champion, and Mahomes, the greatest quarterback probably of all time. He has his coach, Andy Reid. He's got a great group of men around him that have raised him to be great. But then, I mean, I see it because I follow him on Instagram and stuff. He puts the work in. Like you see the day in, day out dedication, very similar to the greats. So I just want to solidify a cadence with the mentors in my life, and I want to really cast that vision. We're in the beginning of a new year right now, and I didn't fall prey to the traditional New Year's resolution, if you will. But what I did do is give myself a grace period of just the first part of the month of January to solidify like scripts. And we can go into that at some point of what I mean by that, but scripts and goals and dreams for this year, and having just a solidified thing that is a disciplined practice of reading those dreams and those goals every day as a part of a mantra to kind of just supplant it in my subconscious. So that's what I'm going to do is just kind of solidify a cadence with mentor in my life, and then really solidify those dreams, goals, and actions for this year.
Yeah. My PO is super simple. I love that. I want to, so when we were talking about the process, what inspired me is just there's a line from Jordan Peterson, who we also have in the room. And Peterson says to set the bar sufficiently low so that some idiot like you can actually achieve it. And the reason that's always spoke to me, and he says it kind of tongue in cheek, obviously, but is because I'll always set these huge mammoth goals. And what happens is I don't achieve them. And then I beat myself up, procrastinate, and then I find myself in a rhythm like that. And so what I want to do is in the process that I'm doing right now, I've been creating like quarterly goals for myself, and I'm hitting that rhythm well. And so I just want to be faithful to the quarterly commitments that I've made. The process of slow and steady wins the race. And so for the next couple weeks, I just want to stay locked in for doing those things every day.
Yeah, I think I got convicted by what I said, so that's pretty cool. Just this idea of never being in a place where you're your own ceiling in a way. I think that's that idea excites me. And it's got me to thinking about how this mentor that I've talked about before, and I've talked about him on the show before, is he's a great guy, and I've been talking about asking him to be my mentor, but I haven't done it yet. And so I think in between now and our next time we get together, I want to just make that ask and be, because part of the reason I keep procrastinating on it is because it's humbling, right? It's humbling to submit yourself to somebody.
Totally.
It's humbling to say, okay, I want to follow your lead. And it's a little bit intimidating to say, okay, like, because I think I'm really cool, I don't want to do the things that you might tell me to do.
Yeah.
And so I'm kind of hesitating to ask because I think I have it all together, and I think I'm a dog, right? And so I think that's what I want to do is I want to ask this guy to be my mentor, and then be ready to take on what he says, because his ceiling is way higher than mine.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. Everyone, thanks for joining. This is Modern Man. If you enjoyed this episode, share it with someone who you think might get some life from it. Let's continue to, he's looking down barrel, isn't he? Yeah, we're getting a lot of life from doing it. So we hope you're getting life from listening to it. Send it to someone who might be blessed by it. And we'll see you guys in a couple weeks. Stay dangerous, gents.
Manscaped.
Peace.